All right, and welcome back, everybody, to Black Bull Podcast. Today we got RX Skulls. RX Skulls, the street artist in Portland. He's got a really unique style. I've been a fan of his work for a while. So, yeah, actually, I got a first question right off the bat. With the name, where'd the name come from?
Yeah, okay. So, well, initially when I started getting into the street art community, when I was putting up street art initially, I didn't have a name. I was just putting up this image, right? And I found out pretty quickly that everyone was on Flickr at the time. And I was like, okay, I want to meet more people in the community. I want to be a part of this. I need to make myself an account and start reaching out to people. Mm-hmm. And so I made the account and I was like, okay, well, I think I want my name to be RX. And but that was, of course, taken. So I was like, well, what do? I make skulls. They're my skulls. They're RX skulls. And as soon as I put RX Skulls up, everyone was just like, oh, that's his full name, which bothered me for a while. I've totally come to accept that. But the idea behind RX has been the whole thing that kind of kicked off my morbid curiosity, if you will, has been years of, there was about 2 years there where my mother, my father, my grandmother, all were diagnosed with cancer, and I had a brain tumor of my very own, and I just kind of became fascinated in like all this, and I was on so much medication that was, some of it necessary, some of it unnecessary, and I just hated it. I hated all these meds and what they were doing to me, and so it was that like RX for prescription, the symbol for prescription, which was the kind of like started it all off, and that's where it came from.
Wow, so. That is such a deeper meaning than I thought it was.
Yeah. Holy shit.
A lot of people just think like, oh, he just likes to get fucked up. He probably is like always taking drugs and shit. And I was like, nope, I'm as far removed from that as I could be.
And for everyone who is not familiar with RX, this is his style. This is kind of like your signature look right here with the skulls, with the, how do you describe it? How would you describe your art?
Yeah, I have a pretty convoluted way I produce things. I'm definitely will not say I'm an illustrator by any means. I wish I could illustrate like some of the people that you've had, like Barebones, for example, you had recently on. I mean, the guy can just pick up a pen and draw something rad. For me, to get my style, it really does take a number of steps. What I do is all my images are based off of a single skull photo I took at a museum in England, actually, over 10 years ago. There's this photo of the skull that I took in a museum, the Museum of History, that I fell in love with. The clarity of the photo, the crispness of the photo, the skull itself. And what I did was I transformed that into a graphic over years and years. Every time I make a new piece of art now, I follow the same method, which is I go to that original skull photo, I edit in such a way to make it into a graphic. Oftentimes, because I've already come to the point where I've gotten it into a graphic that I'm really happy with, I start with this one. And then I transfer it to a block or a lino block where I carve it by hand. And so every design I do, if it's a poison label, if it's a new skull, it's all transferred to a block. I have hundreds of these blocks, and I carve the design by hand. And then I print it one time, scan it, I vector it usually, which with Adobe Creative Suite, Illustrator, and then I screen print it from there. So essentially, it's a block print aesthetic, but it's screen printed for efficiency and better quality as far as like sticker printing and stuff goes.
Wow!
So that's why you have all these little cut designs, these little markings that have become so influential in my branding. That is from the block carving process.
Yeah, because anyone who does Illustrator knows that you can't do strokes that are uneven like that. Like they would all be uniform.
So every shape in here is hand traced from the original block carve.
Wow.
And that's why it takes me sometimes a week to do one new drawing, because I have to take it through so many steps. Whereas a lot of people just break out the iPad Pro and they're a stylist and just like draw something new and be done in like an hour. It's going to take me a week to do something like that, which makes me, I think, appreciate it a lot more. Perhaps, but it also makes me a lot more choosy on what I'm going to do. I'm not just going to knock something out.
Yeah.
I'm going to make sure I'm really excited about that design before I do it, because it's going to be a commitment.
And of course you do more than just stickers. I've seen you do murals, like large scale things. That's
somewhat new. Screen printing stickers and posters has been something I've done for coming on 10 years now. But doing murals is relatively new and something I'm really passionate about, really excited about, something that I'm on the beginning end of the learning curve, really. I am hoping to be able to do more and bigger as time goes on. But as of right now, I did a few in Portland with the Portland Street Art Alliance, who are awesome if you haven't heard about them.
Yeah.
And then when I went to London and Paris a few months ago with my travel mates, Dr. Scott and Vox, our friend City Kitty from New York came this time too. It was great. But we all kind of have been practicing over the last 6 months. Like, let's make this a more of a priority when we go on these trips. And so we did. We were painting on the sides of friends' barns. We were getting walls from like PSAA, and we made that a big priority of this last trip. So it's a completely different animal. It's a completely different process, different tools. But it's so satisfying to see your image go from a sticker on the back of a street sign to like giant, it's great.
So. Well, we had Gage on last week, and he does murals, and he said when he would paint barns with his friends, it was almost like a retreat.
Yeah.
Because there's not people watching you. It's kind of in the middle. It's just like a party, and everyone's just having a great time. And it's crazy to see that you find that same exact experience with it.
Definitely. And the other thing about that is that there is that release of having to look over your shoulder,
right? Because
if you're painting a mural, you're probably not doing it illegally. I mean, there are some people who do, but for us, it's like if we're painting a mural, we've got permission. We've usually got a document on us that has, our info on it that makes sure that if like a councilman or like a cop comes by, we're solid. Yeah. So really it is about like taking your time and really having fun and experimenting with new things and not worrying about like, oh shit, is there a vigilante citizen who's going to chase us down the street? Right. Is there an undercover cop with a, hoodie on and a pair of Vans you wouldn't even know? Like, is they turn the corner? Like, yeah. So it's a different feel, and it is much more relaxing in that way.
So are undercover cops common?
Not in Portland, but in New York, it's a big thing. So I love New York City. I've gotten up there twice now. I did a trip there just a few months ago with Vox and Dr. Scott, and it was awesome as always. We did a couple murals too, which was great. But one of the big things with New York City, it being one of the birthplaces of graffiti, is undercover cops, like the graffiti task force. I mean, they will grab young guys wearing black hoodies, skinny jeans and, Converse. And like, you would just think it was another person walking around when, yeah, absolutely. It's an undercover cop, and they're going to arrest you and process you just for putting a single sticker up.
No way.
It's crazy. I mean, like, if you get caught in most any other city, and especially Europe, they're going to ask you to go home. And that's it. Maybe remove it and go home.
Yeah.
But it's completely different in New York City. Yeah.
Yeah. I was talking to one guy who did graffiti in New York when by the way, I was there and I was seeing your stuff and I was like,
oh, cool.
Yeah. I was like so excited.
Awesome.
Like, I'm going to see you in a week.
Like a week ago. Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, that's great. Yeah. That's great.
But he was telling me that, graffiti they cracked down on it. And then I told him the story about Portland, how stickers kind of rose up because of that government-funded group who was cracking down on graffiti artists. That's how stickers kind of got big. Yeah. And then he was telling me, like, well, it's the same ramifications if you get caught putting up a sticker as graffiti, but then we kind of settled on, but it's so much easier to slap a sticker on than to try to spray.
For sure. Yeah. It's, I mean, even in Portland, too, I mean, almost every city in the United States has free walls. They have, it's pretty easy to do murals. In Portland, not easy to do murals. You have to go through a whole permitting process, have your artwork, completely checked off by the city. And you don't just have to be able to talk to the building owner like most cities. And then, no free walls. Like, they're very much a proponent of the broken windows theory. So you've got, very little way for street artists to express themselves other than just like going at it. And so it's created a much different atmosphere in Portland than in other cities like, New York or Chicago, Philly, LA, big cities for street art.
Well, we got that Taylor Electric building.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And that was a cool building. I've been so happy that that PSAA got the kind of the keys to that building, so to speak, as far as curating the art, because we'd been hitting that building for years, like for a decade, more than a decade.
That's what it was known for.
Yeah, absolutely. And, like Cirque du Soleil went in there and did shows, and there was car shows in there, and there was all sorts of photographers kicking through, especially if you came to Portland, you knew you had to go to Taylor Electric. And it became this really great local spot. And so when it got torn down, it was a sad thing. So it's so sweet that at least that we're able to like continue to have a presence there, you know. So
yeah. It is cool because it's well done. Like it's well maintained for being torn down.
For sure, yeah. How cool to keep some of the facade after they rebuilt too. Like that was a really cool decision by the building owner. Who knows if it was that they actively like street art, or if maybe they were protecting themselves a little bit. Like
they had to do that,
right? They had to do it. Yeah, otherwise it was going to get pretty fucked up, probably.
Yeah,
you know,
you got people who are used to spraying and doing some criminal shit. I'm sure. Like if you piss them off, it's not going to end that well for you. If you build something over it, it's going to get sprayed up for sure.
Yeah, they were smart.
They were smart. Are there any other areas like that in Portland that are kind of similar?
There are some really awesome abandoned buildings, or most of them I couldn't tell you where they are because of like strict street art graffiti etiquette for one. But also I couldn't tell you it even if I wanted to, because it's like hop under this fence, go around this corner, do this and that. And so it's but there are those places. It's just not like Taylor Electric where it was so accessible by the public.
Yeah.
So there are spots, but they're usually like in the middle of a forest, or something, and they're beautiful and so cool to hit. But you're not going to see them pop up on social media as often. You're not going to see just anybody who come into town get access to it, because it is a word of mouth thing. And if it gets too blown up, then all of a sudden it gets torn down too, or it just it gets hit up by really crappy stuff instead of like the people in the know in the scene. But as far as like Taylor Electric, not really, sadly. Yeah, and even in Seattle, they had a lot of buildings like Taylor Electric that have just gone away. Post Alley used to be really cool. It's gotten turned into crap mostly. I mean, like they have to buff it all the time because of all the gum that has gone over to the art side. Yeah, it used to be for years. It was gum wall here, art wall here, and that was respected. And over the last like 4 or 5 years, that divide is completely gone. And there was Tubbs, this amazing. I was on 50th and Roosevelt, and it was this old hot tub like hangout place. I don't know if I could tell you like too much accuracy what it was like, but it sounded really sketchy. But the outside was just covered in street art, and it was for years. And then there was another spot called Soto behind this huge factory that was a free spot for graffiti. And either these buildings and locations have been disrespected to the point to where there's nothing on them anymore, or building owners have changed, or they've just been knocked down. So all those places are really not spots anymore in Seattle, for example. And so it's interesting how, certain cities, they're building it up, and other cities, like it's kind of disappearing. But we're getting more and more creative with what we do and how we approach things. So
people are they're more accepting of it, at least when it's well done. The Soda one, that was the railroad one, right?
It was. Yeah, you're right. Yep.
Yeah. Actually, I was watching a video on that today.
Oh, really?
I want to go check it out.
Yeah, that was a cool wall. That was really cool. That was probably one of the first walls that I ever painted freehand on.
Really?
Just for fun. Like I was with my friend Winston the Whale, and he's just a magician. I know, it's great. He does this whale character. It's awesome. Like now that I'm telling you about it, you'll probably see a little whale sticker, swimming around the city. But he's an amazing dude with a spray can. And he threw down like this amazing piece over there, and I was just like screwing around with a can on the other side. And those were really fun spots to hit, but not spots that are really there anymore, unfortunately.
Yeah.
But.
So the gum wall one, that area, they sort of granted street artists full access of that wall.
Yeah, for decades.
Yeah.
It was essentially a wall for advertising back years and years and years ago, where they would put like show posters and stuff up, and then it eventually, so those particular kinds of theaters or what have you, what they're advertising for became less and less prevalent. Maybe I'm like speculating a little bit here, but it became a street art wall, and it's completely legal. It's not legal to spray paint it, but it's legal to put up art. So what we would do as the Portland crew, we would drive up there together usually, and we would just there would be paste running down, because it's a little bit of an angle. There'd be paste running down the cobblestone street, just like a river of it. We'd all be soaked, slipping, holding onto each other, and like scrambling for spots. And we'd have ladders and extension poles, and it's awesome. We'd go there usually at night, not because we were afraid of like getting caught, obviously, because it's legal, but just because there'd be less people. when you get up in places that are more accepting of it, that's great. But you also have a lot more like looky-loos. You have a lot of phones coming out, and just a lot more clutter. And so it's usually better to go hit those, even if it's a legal spot, hit it in a time when there's less people.
Yeah, you got to look out for yourself.
Yeah.
So. What's a big mistake you see people do when they first enter street art?
There's so many more ways to make mistakes now because of like how street art's evolved. Like it used to be, I would tell you, like when I started, it'd be about, how paranoid you are with your personal information, your identity, how you get up. Are you gonna, talk about it to everybody and their brother? I've heard of people getting a haircut and being like, oh yeah, like, what do you do? Oh yeah, I'm a graffiti writer. I do this, and this, and I write this. And then that person is the daughter of the graffiti abatement person of that city. And then they now get busted. Like, that's a real story. And so initially I would tell you that kind of thing. And now I would say with the expansion of social media and like people jumping into street art and immediately making about money, that's the thing that bothers me as like someone who's been in it for about a decade. Mm-hmm. I get like a little old man about it, where like get off my lawn kind of scenario where it's like, my advice to new people is like, get into it, have fun with it, focus on the art. Don't make it be about the money. Don't depend on it for money right away. If you can do it and make money off of it and make a living off of it, great, but just don't put that emphasis on it in the beginning because then it shapes the whole project from then on. People start making the art that they think will sell rather than the art that they love, right?
Yeah.
And so I would say like, don't start an online store right away. Don't submit tons of art to art shows right away. Just like connect with the community members, have fun, get up, collaborate, trade, and then let all that other stuff come into it on its own, like take your time with it, really.
It's meme culture.
Yeah, it's really. It's the instant gratification.
Yeah, exactly.
Of it all.
Those likes, get those likes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Exactly.
You guys feel like the music industry gives you a clue of where the visual industry is going to go when it comes to this stuff? Because like, remember back when like forever, like 80s or whatever, when people started sampling beats and then all the studio producers, all the old men were complaining, they're like, I put a lot of work into this sound that I made. I actually had someone come in and play it for me. It's like, they still didn't fucking do anything, but someone else chops it and makes it dope. And then they complain about it. And it's like, and then that was what music was forever until now. Now it's that more than it ever has been. It's starting to happen with visual. It has been happening with visual art for a while. That's like where memes came from. And then with street art and sticker printing, I mean, how easy would it be to just be like, that's a cool image. I'm going to change it slightly, print it, put it up somewhere. Give me money.
Yeah. It happens. I get like this really sour feeling in my stomach when I'm like in super touristy spots and I see people selling, Banksy copies or Buff Monster copies or, Swoon copies, all these street artists who've worked so hard to get where they're at. And then they just have people, like just blatantly ripping them off like they would any other brand, like Adidas or Nike or something, right? But it's like, there's such a huge void between those two, people versus companies and stuff.
There's a weird discussion about that, about how things, they're becoming a trend, but they started in the streets, and that's always been a topic of music.
Sure.
And then fashion as well. I don't know how this could be much different though. I mean, it's going to start here and it might climb up the ladder, and then some just graphic designer at a company is going to oh yeah, it's kind of based it off this little skull that I saw.
Right.
And that definitely sucks for you, but I mean that could be inevitably what happens.
I feel like it has to happen at some point, unfortunately.
I think absolutely. And I'm ready for it. I'm gonna be bummed out if it happens, and I think any street artist. But true. But I mean, you're right. There's so little control I have, and as an anonymous artist too, the ability to trademark and copyright everything with your legal name. And you're just, it's far less protected in general.
Yeah.
I mean, are you really going to want to go to court and fight for this being your image when it's illegally all over how many countries and cities,
Right.
And so there are some street artists out there who are fuck it, I'm going to go ahead and trademark all this stuff and protect myself. And there's other people who just are like, what's going to happen is going to happen. I can't say I've subscribed to either of those groups really, but it's definitely something that has happened to me and will probably continue to happen. I remember there was a drug treatment program in another city, and that did great work. I did research into like them after this happened, but they had taken one of my poison labels and they took all the information out, and then they entered their own information for their event. And
like this one,
like one of those labels, yeah.
Whoa.
And they kept the skull, they kept the color, they kept everything, all the design aesthetic.
That's the design, if everyone wants to see that.
But they put all their information in there, and someone, the internet has made the world a very small place, right? Someone tagged me and was like, yo, I just got this free t-shirt from this like tent on the side of the street, and they're like talking about their drug treatment program, and they're giving these out for free, and it was about an event coming up. And they had, I don't know how many of these t-shirts printed, but, and then signage and stuff too with my artwork. And it took me a while, but I actually made a bunch of calls and tracked down who they were, and I got to speak to like the manager person. I was just like, look, I used to be a graphic designer. I know what it's like to be a young artist and, maybe be taking bigger steps than you're ready for. I get that this person may have not done this out of maliciousness or thought that they were getting away with it, but you need to know you have a designer. Maybe they're new, maybe they're not, but they're on your staff and they're stealing artwork from people, me in particular, and they're passing it off as their own. And I was just like, can I talk to your designer? And they wouldn't let me talk to the designer, but they came back and they were like, you were right. That's what's happened. We're having a talk with them. I'm so sorry this has happened. And having done, I was a graphic designer for 5 years for a corporation, corporate designer. And I just know that kind of stuff happens. Either people think that they can get away with it, or they just don't get it. They genuinely don't understand that artwork that's put out there is always copyrighted. It's always owned by the person who's created it. And they don't realize that it's wrong. And so that was a really interesting conversation to have, and they destroyed all the t-shirts and
really
went from there. Yeah.
Wow.
They were cool about it. Yeah. They understood.
Good for them. And good for you, man. That's awesome.
So, yeah. It was a win for sure.
I feel like a lot of those actions with graphic designers, it stems from either a lot of pressure
yeah,
or laziness.
Sure.
I mean, God,
yeah.
So that's frustrating.
Yeah. I felt bad, because I'm sure that it looked like a great program, and they had, I'm sure they only have so much money for like marketing and stuff, but it was like, I'm sorry, I'm not gonna sue you. Obviously, I'm not gonna ask for any money from you. I appreciate what you're doing, but you need to get rid of those t-shirts. It's not cool.
I bet they looked cool.
Yeah.
Where do you seek your inspiration when you're coming up with these?
It's a lot of different things. I don't take commissions for a reason. I'm really like a project by project person. If I'm not really stoked about what I'm working on, I'm just not going to do it. Good. And if I'm halfway through a project and I'm getting bored with it, I will table it, or I will just give it up, because if I'm not excited about it, it's not worth doing. And because, like I said, it takes me so many steps to get through one image, I have to be stoked on it. So like there was a whole year, 2016 was like the year of poison labels for me. I researched antique poison labels, and I created a whole series of like 20 of my own labels with like really cheeky, silly content, and I had all sorts of different designs and aesthetic in there. And there will be like a whole year where I do nothing but like different versions of the skull. So like this rest in peace skull versus the original skull. And I've spent a good portion of the last year and a half working on fake advertisements, which I think is hilarious. And I don't know if other people think they're funny, but I do. So that's all that matters to me. I mean, I hate modern advertising. I think it's aggressive and sterile and boring. But old advertising, man, like 100 years ago, that shit was done by real artists. Like the typefaces were drawn custom. The artwork was done by like woodcut artists,
drawn,
and there was a dry humor to a lot of it too, like kind of a cheeky funniness to it. And so I loved that about design, and I still employ a lot of my graphic design tendencies in my work now. So, another big thing with me is like I want to do stuff that other people aren't doing, and I can't think of any other street artists out there who would spend a week working on a poster of a fake advertisement for fucking carbolic soap. You know what I mean? It's like, why? Who else is going to do that? I'm going to do it because I think it's weird and funny, but like no one else is going to do that. Like I get off on that. It's like, I want to do different stuff. I want to do weird stuff. I want to have fun with it. And that's really like the only thing that drives me. Yeah.
Yeah.
So you're mostly talking about print advertisements.
Absolutely. Yeah, definitely. Although, I have friends, I have a really great friend named John who does videography. He's done projects with me that are on my Instagram, and he's super talented. I've worked with him and want to continue working with him on doing like video projects versus, print projects. Really like any which direction that I'm going, is where I'm going to concentrate on. Like I don't have goals too far ahead because then it becomes like work to me and it gets boring. And so I'm really just like, what am I working on right now?
Okay.
Yeah. And right now, print media, I'm really excited about. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, with the way you do your art, I mean, like you can't just wait and do this. You have to actually commit to that design.
Definitely.
Is that linoleum cut too?
Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah.
Alex was saying the other day, it was, you can't rush creativity or you can't force creativity.
Can't force
it's
it,
like
yeah.
I love that that quote, but it falls in line with picking projects that you're passionate about, and it must feel way more fulfilling when you do them than if you're just kind of doing whatever comes up or some like literally any idea that pops in your head or that someone tells you or asks you to work on, because it'll burn you out
Absolutely.
real quick, and then you won't the quality of everything gets lowered. I think if you're like, you can kind of jump between projects if you're just a small part of them, or just, if they're all collaborations and you're not managing it from start to finish. H. Troy was talking about how a lot of the time when he collaborates or when anyone collaborates, there's like one person who has to finish it and like who has to like put the piece together and like get it ready to sell or ready to put up or whatever it is. And that's always like, if you're doing that, it seems like you're doing all the work.
Yeah.
Kind of.
Yeah. That's an interesting point too, because collaborating or collabing in like the sticker community has always, for many years, just been, here's my image, you take it and do something to it, which isn't very collaborative, And so one thing that I've been really excited about just over the last few weeks, ever since I got back from my trip to Europe, has been expanding on that process and like, okay, you have an image. Let me take that image. I'm going to block carve it. Then I'm going to send it back to you and you're going to edit it. And then I'm going to print it, and it's like, once we both touch it multiple times and then throw it out into the world, it's just so much more satisfying. And I think for me, collaborating has reached a whole new interest level because of now feeling like I'm emphasizing and like being honest to the word more so. Yeah. Because otherwise, like you said, it's just, it doesn't feel as honest, and it feels like all the work is, humped on one person. And
that's
not as fun.
That's so true. I mean, but what I feel like there's so many different interpretations to collaboration, and there's got to be lazy collaborators where they might just hand you a half-finished thing and say, finish it, put your twist on it.
Yeah.
And that's not cool. Like, is the idea really sparked from an idea? Or is that where you're starting from? Are you starting from scratch? I mean, that's what I think you should be doing with every collaboration.
Definitely.
Or are you just giving someone something like, finish that, put your twist on it?
Well, and that's funny that you say that, because a new step to collaborating that I've been doing with like my friends lately is we grab coffee first.
Yeah.
First thing you do is you grab coffee, have a piece of paper out, and you just start like sketching out ideas and talking about what would be fun and making sure that both people are equally as excited about it, and then going from there. So
it makes a lot of sense. I like, collaborations, I feel like often work best when you can let each person run with what they do and trust them and let them use their talents. And like, they're kind of, they're really working by themselves in a way, but it's for the greater good. And then they can really fully actualize their talents. And sometimes you get really amazing stuff that you never expected that way. And it's cool to just like kind of let that trust be like, I don't know how this is going to turn out, because I don't know what they're going to come up with, because I'm not them, but I'm going to let them do their thing and I'm going to do my thing the best I can. And it's hard for it to go wrong when that works out.
Yeah.
Yeah.
okay.
We've done sorry.
Well, I was going to go into like some lifestyle stuff. How do you what do you do to maintain like a healthy mind?
Dog park.
Really? Dog, you're a dog person.
I just got a dog like 6 months ago, and she's been a really great way for me to take a break without feeling like I'm not taking advantage of the time I could be for projects and stuff. Like I used to have this like guilt, if I wasn't, I couldn't even watch a movie without cutting stickers, because I had to know that my project was moving forward in some way, whether it's designing, printing, cutting. ideating. Something had to be moving it forward. And, ever since my wife got out of school, she went back to school a year ago, and she was in school for 3 years. She'd already had a bachelor degree. She went back to school for 3 years. So that was tough because she was in her own land for 3 years, where it was like she had to go to school all day and study all night, and I didn't get any time with her. So that was like 3 years of me just pushing my project crazy hard and not even coming up for air. And then now that I have my wife back and I have my dog, it's just like, oh, it's great. It's like I just spend time with them, and it's, it's great recharge, and then I get back into my project and I'm just like ready to go, and I don't feel burnt out anyway. So spending time with family is a huge one. But then again, cutting stickers is super therapeutic for me and always has been. So if I am feeling like I need a break, but I don't feel like I need a full break, like just hanging out, starting some Netflix and like cutting out stickers is a really great way.
I agree with your dog one.
Yeah.
Because it'll get you to like remove yourself from the house, walk a dog.
Yeah.
The dog's always happy to see you.
Oh yeah.
It's a great like emotional booster.
Oh, it's awesome.
I love every dog I see.
That's funny that you brought up your dog and wife, because I was going to point out that it seems like as dorky as this is, it seems like people who are married or have like solid relationships tend to have a little bit better time relaxing and then focusing on their work and being more prolific.
Why do you think that is, Ben?
I don't know, because they feel loved and cared about. I was actually going to ask you guys what you thought.
I think there might be something to that.
Yeah, no, for sure. I mean, it sounds dorky or whatever, but it's like a legit thing. I keep seeing it more and more.
Mm-hmm.
And the people who are in that situation are usually more prolific. They seem to be doing better. And it's like, I don't know, it's real.
It's stress relief.
Yeah, it is. It's stress relief and support at the same time.
Mm-hmm.
And it's kind of like, you don't feel like you got to do everything yourself,
mm-hmm.
Because like you do the work, but then you don't have to take care of yourself so hard when you get home. You got other people doing it for you, and they like you just sitting on the couch doing nothing. They still like you for that, and that feels good.
Mm-hmm.
And then you feel good about the work you did earlier, because you're like, oh, I already did a bunch of work today. Now this is my time to like just relax, and here's my validation for relaxing. Can just sit in here or whatever, I don't know. That's my random theory.
I agree. I got a buddy who's starting a business right now, and he joked about like, oh yeah, as it's launching, he's gonna just go on Tinder and start swiping right and just saying, I just need someone to hold me at night. That's about it.
For real,
it's true.
Yeah,
you need someone to hold you every now and then.
Yeah,
just to like keep you cool.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Like, everything's gonna be okay. You're gonna be all right. You're fine. It's not gonna cave.
I always think about movie directors and stuff like that, and the amount of effort they put in. I'm like, dude, a lot of those guys must have like, there's all these other people helping them. They have all these behind the scenes people who may or may not be getting paid,
mm-hmm.
who are just literally supporting them, and that's really how all that work gets done.
Mm-hmm.
It takes a village.
And then one guy takes all the credit.
Yeah, right. Whose name should we put on this? I don't care. Yeah.
Or you could be that director, just fire someone on the set every day and terrifies the rest of the crew. But not a good approach. We don't recommend that.
Nah.
So for someone, let's see, what else are we going to do?
I like more of the health stuff. Do you do anything like more physical than mental?
I ride a motorcycle. I love riding my motorcycle. That's a huge one, and that's a way that I stay connected with my dad. He's been riding since he was like, 12 years old, 13 years old, and I've been riding since I was, 11 years old. And so doing like the sand dunes or riding on the road, that's just been a huge stress reliever and a way that I can maintain that relationship there. Going on long walks with a pocket full of stickers is like my favorite unwind thing probably. It's like all this work and effort and mental energy goes into making all this, but remembering why you got into it in the first place, and that like enjoyment of getting up is just something that you can't lose, because it just keeps you connected with the community and allows you to, continue to show off your stuff, but it's something that's made for me the most mundane of tasks interesting. So like going to the grocery store. Hey, going to the grocery store. Go to the grocery store with a pocket full of like mini stickers. Oh, it's all of a sudden great. Like I'll hide stickers on the back of jam jars and like put them 3 deep. I'll put them on like a banana. Like shit's hilarious, man.
That's like, you got to make that an interactive thing. Well, maybe you do already. I don't know. I mean, that's super cool to be like, hey, you find one of my stickers, I'll fucking give you a sticker pack.
Oh,
or
sure,
something.
definitely. Yeah. Hide things places.
Yeah, for sure.
I've
Just
definitely
be like
done
somewhere in like, some neighborhood. And it could be literally anywhere. It could be on the back of a jar in a store, like people have no idea. You could do in the most obscure places and stuff, but like, I don't know. Someone's gonna do it if you don't do it first.
Oh, it's satisfying.
People thought that Woke Faces stuff was a game, and they were like,
"Oh, did they?"
Yeah, her like original wood gloss stuff. Like,
funny.
yeah, they were like collecting. Like, what game is this?
Oh, I didn't know if I knew that.
Yeah.
That's funny.
Yeah, she was telling us that, and I mean, I think that's totally you're onto something because if you could, everyone always talks about you got to build that community, and if you literally start a game. And like have everyone go to like, I don't know, some sort of a platform, play the game. That's kind of cool.
Well, do you know about the Invader game? Do you know Invader? Invader's Invader's a really well-known street artist out of Paris, and I mean he's all over the world, but he has an app.
Really?
And and it's a game, and I think it's called Flash Invader. And it's incredible. I have friends who have been playing it for ages, and you go and you use the app to take a photo of the invader that you see, and it has a GPS built in, so it makes sure you're not cheating. So it's like, okay, you are here. You did take the photo. Yes, that is one that's in the game. That is an original one. You now have 10 points, and people battle, like I have more in the area or in this country or what have you. And so I could definitely see that being more of a thing for street art in general. I mean, Wokeface is gamifying her project right now in October. She's made a whole series of like ghosts and bats, Wokeface designs and little mini ones. And then she's hiding them all over the city and letting people go find them and nab them and stuff. So my friend Winston the Whale, who I mentioned to you earlier, we went one Easter morning, crazy early, and we went like all the way down Belmont, and we had our stickers in eggs, and we hid them all through the bushes, and then we put it on our social media, and we're like, go on the Easter egg hunt, find Winston the Whale and RX stickers. They're free. Go grab them.
That's great.
It's so satisfying. Even if you're not there to see the person open it or find it or enjoy it, it's just knowing that there are people out there doing it. It's great. I love that.
That's cool.
Dude, that is awesome. Do you have any projects coming up that you want to tell us about that you're excited about?
Not anything too close. I do have like this next year will be 10 years for my project.
Oh, nice.
So
congratulations, man.
Thank you.
Yeah,
so this next year I will definitely have a 10-year like show, but it'll also be my first solo show because I've never had a solo show, which is kind of crazy.
Dude,
so
crazy.
I'm going to put a ton of effort into that and just like rent a big old space, have it be really interactive and fun. So I haven't really made that public, but I'm really excited about making that happen. And then, I'm moving here pretty soon to my like permanent house, and with that will come building my permanent studio. So that'll be an amazing new big project where I'll really be able to dig in and make my space super efficient just like
that's awesome.
I'm really excited about that.
You gotta post
That's
some of
cool,
that shit.
man. I can't wait for your show. We're gonna have to do some live coverage at it.
Yeah, that'd be great. Absolutely.
Yeah, that would.
We've been like
yeah.
talking about that. Like,
No
man, we
doubt.
gotta go to these shows and do something because
It's a good idea.
It just seems like it's a good fit.
Yeah. Well, street art's already so ephemeral. It's like we do something, how awesome that we can put it out there for it to live a little bit longer, and that would be a great way to do that.
Yeah.
We got video equipment, like
Do it.
why not?
Yeah, just gotta bring masks to make sure people.
Yeah.
You got
Yeah, for everyone
some
who
now.
needs one.
So,
Yeah.
we don't want to out anyone. So
Right.
Yeah. For
right.
other people, I think people know what we look like now, but
Oh,
You'll
we're
be
not
all right.
hidden.
Yeah.
We're not
yeah.
hidden.
You'll be doing
Yeah.
a lot of blurring otherwise.
Yeah.
Yeah, that'll be tough. Yeah.
for sure.
Well, cool, man. I mean, how far?
We're good.
We're good.
Yeah, this
All
went by.
Anything else you want
fast.
to? Anything else you want to bring up, promote, or ideas that you want, message you want to put out there in the world?
Selfish promotion. I'll definitely mention the gang runs that I'm doing.
Do it.
My apprentice, Lame. That's
Lame?
his street art name. Yeah. Awesome guy. He's become one of my best friends. He and I do this ongoing print run called the Gang Run. And essentially it's a way that anybody can get stickers printed of their artwork. And the way that we do is we do them under different themes and we print them all at once, which allows for a lower price point for the artist who wants to be involved, because that way you're sharing the startup cost with maybe 100 other people rather than you taking it all on yourself. Because with screen printing, there's so much startup that goes into it. There's chemical exposures, there's, all these different things. So essentially you're talking about multiples of sheets, and then we put everyone's different like art on there, and then we print 100 sheets of each design, and then everyone comes out with 100 stickers. And so like the one that's live right now is the holographic eggshell gang run, which is cool. Eggshell is a specific type of material that is permanent. So when you put it up, it only comes off in tiny little specks, which is
cracks off.
Yeah, which is nice for street art, honestly.
Yeah.
But and it's holographic, so it's like it's shiny in the light. And so people will send me their art, and then we'll print it for them, mail it out in a fancy custom printed box, and it's like 35 cents a sticker, and it's handmade. So it's like it's a cool thing. Me and him can make a living off of it, and we make art for people, and like how fucking great is that? It's like we can pay our bills by printing artwork for other people. It's awesome.
That's awesome to hear.
That is awesome.
We always love hearing that.
Yeah.
Well, anyways, we'd love to have you back anytime.
Thank
You're
you.
a cool guy, so we appreciate you coming on.
Yeah, for
appreciate
real.
it
Thanks so
very
much,
much.
man. It was great to have you.
Bye, world.
Have a good one, guys.